Yes, okay, so we're actually, I don't know if this is going to work or not, but honestly, it's just the best effort. So, okay, I'll stand up and talk for a minute, go through the preliminaries. Thank you all for coming. It's been a long road to get to this point, I think. So, a bit of history. Back in the early days of Scala, Scala development, when the language was still pretty young, there wasn't a lot in the way of tool support for it. You kind of had to pick and choose wisely. I think the main competitors at the time were the Scala IDE as it is now, but not as it is now. It had a lot of bugs in it. It was based on Eclipse, but it would just lose its tiny mind occasionally. You'd be programming. I'm sure anybody you probably remember this. Suddenly your entire file would turn red. If you were lucky and you restarted it, things would be all right. At least one time, I had it just go into this infinite startup loop where it just kept crashing and restarting and crashing and restarting. Had to go in and delete the plugins before it would actually work again. So, you know, they were tough times for tooling. The other one, if you happened to be an Emacs person, was Ensime. Ensime stood for the Enhanced Scala Intelligence Mode for Emacs. And I used to be a big Emacs user, and actually the epiphany for me came one day. I was working away editing one of my major modes in Emacs and realized that I actually spent about a third of my time working on Emacs and not on my project these days. And I thought, clearly this has to change. So that was and Sam hated him, so that's he knew that more than me. But he said before. So anyway, then NetBeans and IntelliJ jumped in and got going on tooling, and the tooling started to get really good. Scala IDE turned the corner, got support from TypeSafe and got rapidly enhanced. Everything got really good for a while. And a really important thing happened during that period, which is that Martin added this Scala presentation compiler into kind of the tool chain of Scala. And it's sort of like the first few phases of the compiler, and it's intended to be looked into by tools to make the tooling better. And that's what Scala IDE uses. At about the same time, everybody jumped on the new tools, the shiny things, and Ensime sort of got forgotten, abandoned, largely. And the funny thing was, all of this came about from a conversation I had with Sam and Rory Graves, Sam Halliday and Rory Graves, at a conference about almost 2 years ago now. And at the time, I was still with TypeSafe. And I cheekily walked up to them and said, you know what would be really good? Is we've got this thing called Activator. I'm sure you've all seen Activator. And it uses this ACE editor inside, but it'd be lovely to try and get some kind of intelligence into that. You know, maybe something based around Ensime. Anyway, what grew out of that was I don't use Activator much in terms of the GUI tool anymore. But the whole Ensime effort sort of got reborn out of that. And Sam took to it like a duck to water. He was all over it. He's like rewritten huge parts of it. And I've done a lot of it working yet. So the upshot is it's now back on, it's actually in the best shape it's ever been. That's not to say it's ready for general usage just yet. I'll demo it tonight. It comes with a certain amount of understanding, but there probably will be some pain, and it's definitely less pain than there was in the past. But I'll show you some of the tricks tonight for fixing when things go wrong. The main thing is if you're looking for something as polished as IDEA, you're going to be disappointed by this thing. But if you're looking for something that you can actually help improve and shape in the way that you like it, then I think this is something to get excited about. So let's go through a couple of things first. Let's have a look at the editors that are now supported. So it's no longer the Enhanced Scala Intelligence Mode for Emacs. It is now the Enhanced Scala Intelligence Mode for editors. And it actually supports several editors. So we have in various states of support, and there may be others. These are the ones that we know about and that are sort of active right now. There's Emacs, of course. There's always going to be Emacs. It started off life as an Emacs tool. There's Atom. Any Atom users? Yeah, you like it?
Yeah.
I like it a lot too, actually. The main problem I have is it doesn't have very good IDPI support on Linux yet. Occasionally you'll right-click and you'll get a menu that comes up and it's so large and kind of goofy that you can't actually select anything on it.
Yeah, I have it.
Right. They've got a lot of ways to go there. Vim? Any Vim users? Yeah. Okay. How many Emacs users? Okay. And Vim users? Oh, that's just enough for a really good fight. That's awesome. Yeah. Anybody seen this one, the Visual Studio Code? Yeah. I'm surprised and pleasantly so that it's actually not that bad. It's basically, it's sort of a very, I guess, I don't know how to describe it, very stripped down Visual Studio, or a sort of bare bones thing that uses some of the Visual Studio components. It's one or the other. But it's an editor that Microsoft released for free with the MIT license. It uses TypeScript as its implementation language. And then, of course, there's Sublime, which is the one I've used. I've used Sublime for a long time. I have flirted briefly with Atom, and as I said, I had problems on some of the platforms. I keep looking at it, and I'm kind of interested. That's that whole JavaScript thing. I just like the Python better than the JavaScript, but it's very much a matter of taste. So these are the supported text editors. The other thing you need, this is one part of what you need to run Ensime. You need an editor with some kind of support built in, or you can write your own if you've got a favorite text editor. The documentation is getting better. There's these ones to look at and copy from. I do a tremendous amount of copying Atom and Emacs for things like what calls are that I need to make and stuff like that. Plus, I ask tons of questions on the board and stuff like that. But you need one of these. You also need a supported build tool, because the other part of it is that you're going to put together the Ensime project file. And this is really good too. So we've got SBT, CBT. I don't know what CBT is.
It's fairly new of our culture.
Okay.
Chris Bolton's build.
Yeah. Okay. Pants, the Twitter one. Another one I've not heard of. Actually, I kind of have heard of that one, Leningen, but I don't know much about it. Maven, which is the 99% of the rest of the world that's got support. Gradle, and then manual. You can actually create. It is sort of human readable, so you can actually create an Ensime file yourself if you want to get going with it. So, right, let's go back to the script. There are no slides. I'm doing the Venkat style of this, so no longer Ensime editors list. Getting started, right. How do you get started? Well, there's a nice section on getting started that talks about pretty much what I've just said. You have to have a .ensime file. That's your project definition file. Fortunately, how many people here using SBT? Okay, vast majority. What other tools are you guys using that didn't put up your hands for SBT? Anyone? Oh, you're all too shy. Okay. But if you use SBT, it's actually pretty trivial. As long as it's building in SBT, you can basically type SBT Ensime config, and it spits out the file, and you're ready to go. When you make changes to dependencies, you rerun that. And actually, as I'll talk about later, you rerun it from time to time anyway. And particularly right now, Ensime is very, very verbose in its logging. You'll find that it's taking gigabytes and gigabytes of logging space. So you'll want to blow away your Ensime files every so often anyway, just to free up some space and get things running well again. So, right. So there's that. And then there's the getting help. And I know I'll channel Sam a little bit on this. I think I've set expectations here already that you're not going to get something out of the box that's like super slick. You're going to run into problems with it. And the kind of mindset of people that we're looking for, because we are looking for volunteers, right? This is part of the drive here, is we're looking for people that can report a bug, but can narrow it down, can really kind of help us, dig in and find it, and are willing to accept that possibly it's not a bug. Seriously, some of these things are, I hit one just this morning. I don't know if it's a bug or not yet, or last night when I was putting this talk together. Some of the refactorings I was doing were taking 20 seconds, upwards of 20 seconds. I'm like, this seems like a pretty major regression. Tried it on a different project, no problem. So now I'm looking at, there's some things in my Sublime that are doing like probably extra type checking that I don't need to do. Could be that they're slowing it down, so I have to do that. The conversations happen, but I don't wait in going, it's broken, stop everything. I'm like, anybody else got this problem? Anybody else seeing slowdowns on this and that kind of thing?
So it's reasonably straightforward. I hope to have your own fork of Ensime that you're working with. Okay.
Yes, and in fact I'll show you that very shortly here. I have Ensime Sublime, SBT, the Sublime SBT plugin, Ensime Server, and the Scala debugger, all locally, and I can run them all locally. Most of the time I run the servers actually from the real bits because I tend to mess them up on my local one, and I need to get work done sometimes, so I go back to the main ones. But the Sublime plugin and the SBT plugin, I keep those local because they're Python, they're easy to fix, and I like to customize them a lot. At this point, I wouldn't use the standard ones anyway because I like being able to just add a new command when I need it in there. And then eventually I'll sort of push that back out to the rest of the world once it's working. So, right, so let's go through some of these. Getting started and getting help. Please read the getting help before you jump into the Gitter channels. There's great Gitter channels, there's really nice people on there. People who wade in and say it's broken and what are you jokers doing tend not to get a lot of attention on there. It's a friendly group, but you know, occasionally we hear a lot about it. It's like, it's totally broken, it doesn't work at all. I'm like, well, I'm using it, it is working. Admittedly, it's not working to the standards of an idea yet, but it's working. You know, the guys I work with here, they'll tell you I write code day to day in this. Sometimes it's more challenging than others, but I have been trying to make myself just use it all the time because the only way it's going to get better is if I do that. I have to feel that pain and fix things as they go wrong. So let's talk about what it is. Why would you want to use it? Okay, I think the main thing that I like about it, particularly in Sublime, and it really is noticeable, is that it feels very fast and light to use. It feels it. There's a little bit of a friction there because I honestly think it uses more resources than I do when it's going full. By the time you've got SBT running, you know, in server mode, and you've got Ensime going, and all these files loaded in, it's getting up there on the memory usage. It's not lightweight, but it is fast. So it's fast and it's very usable integration already. There are many features already implemented. Some of them work better than others, but it's a usable set of features, and I think the main one is it's customizable and it can be written by you. I've added, in fact, on my laptop today, I'll be able to show you the reformatting feature, which I've only just added, and I'm going to play with it a bit more before I put it out there because I'm not sure it's working totally yet. But that uses Scalariform, your Scalariform settings to reformat the file, and that's actually just a few lines of code to add it in there. Once I discovered it was there, it was only putting this talk together that I'm looking at features going, what's this reformat one? I don't have that. And then I go on the list and it's like, oh yeah, you can reformat their files, and this is how you do it. It took 3 lines of code to put in it. And I think the last one is also another nice thing for me, is it uses the Scala presentation compiler. This doesn't mean that it's perfect. There are still times it won't catch something that Scala compiler does. But it has a lot less false positives or false errors. That's something, particularly if you start getting into like serious type-driven development in IntelliJ, you'll start to see errors that aren't really errors. It drives me nuts. Particularly in the middle of a for expression, suddenly it's like, oh, there's an error here. And I get used to telling, you know, co-workers, hit compile. I don't think that's really an error. Let's check if it's really an error. Because it does that. I've seen 1 or 2 of those in Ensime, but they're incredibly rare. Usually what they are is the result of a dirty build. So you rebuild it and suddenly all those errors clear up and they're gone away. So, yes?
Just by comparison, does IntelliJ use the presentation?
IntelliJ does not use the presentation compiler. They have their, and there's good reason for it, they have their own, I think they've got like one of the alternative Scala compilers out there. It's not a complete compiler, but it's all the way through to like the typer. And the reason they do that is for their rich kind of integration into the tool, they need a lot more hooks that are custom to them. So I think and I think there have been discussions before about it, but it's too big of a job for them to get the presentation compiler to do everything they want, I believe. So I think it's gonna remain like that. What they're doing is they have a good pipeline. I'm not going to tell you that IDEA is not the right way to go. IDEA has a great pipeline, but if you see one of those, they've actually kind of streamlined. Hey, I got one of these type errors. It works in Scala. It's coming up red here, and you put it in there, and it gets put into a fixed queue. And they do. It is improving, constantly improving. But
I think Scala IDE uses the presentation.
yes, Scala IDE does use the present, and in fact, that's one of the reasons Ensime has been able to do so much better, is because a lot of the work has already been done as part of the presentation compiler work, and because Scala IDE uses it, and things like the Scala debugger and all those things are, they've made the tooling better. They're all open source, and so just sort of plugs into those, and it's using, it's the best of open source development. It's using whatever's available and contributing back a bunch of stuff and that kind of thing. So, okay. Sorry, yep.
What is the presentation compiler?
The presentation compiler is effectively, I think it's like the first 4 stages, phases of the Scala compiler. You may know better than me. The Scala compiler has a bunch of phases. I think it's 27 at last, and it goes through like the tokenizer parser, through things like the typer, which is where a lot of the work happens. And then it goes through a whole bunch of other phases where it does things like unrolls for expressions and does the pattern matching, converts those into if statements, and all these kind of things that it does on the way through. The presentation compiler is sort of the first few phases of that in the actual compiler, and a bunch of hooks that have been exposed to make the resulting abstract syntax tree something that you can access and find out about from tools. So it's built-in IDE support to a certain level in the Scala compiler itself. And the advantage of that is you're running the compiler code, so you get less of these false errors. There are errors it won't catch because they're not caught until later, but it doesn't give you a lot of these false positives, because if it compiles here, it's going to compile. Well, if it compiles in the Scala compiler, it's going to at least get to this stage here.
And it does catch the large majority.
It does, yeah. And the rest of it, I'm running SBT alongside it, so that catches the rest, right? So what it isn't, and this is the expectation setting, it is not complete by a long shot. Even the features that are there are not totally complete yet. Rename, for example, does about half the job right now. It works fine if it's in the same file that you're renaming a variable or a method, and it will even work across some files sometimes. But if those files happen to not currently be cached, it doesn't do them. It sort of leaves some done, some undone, and then things don't compile and stuff like that. It's not totally reliable. In fact, it's more reliable when you're using it day to day and constantly. It does pretty well then. When I'm getting it ready for a demo, it always seems to go horribly wrong because I'm using all these things that I'm not normally using. It hasn't actually done anything to irreversibly eat my code in a long time, so you should be pretty safe on that. I still recommend having your code in GitHub. It isn't totally stable either. The development's pretty fast, and updates come in, and one day something will be working, and the next day I'll be on the chats going, hey, add import just stopped working for me, what's happened? And I've had these conversations another time. So I said, well, I did change this thing over here, but that can't possibly be related. And then later on we find out that was actually the exact reason that it broke. So that's kind of what life is like in there. You can always go back to an earlier version or whatever, but yeah, you just need to be aware that some mornings you're going to get up and it's going to be grumpy, and you're going to have to ease it through that grumpiness and try and figure it out. It's certainly not as full-featured as IDEA or Scala IDE yet, and as I mentioned before, it isn't necessarily lighter on resources. By the time you've had SBT and Ensime running together for about a day, it's about time to reboot the whole development environment. Just shut everything down, get everything off, start it up again, because it gets pretty heavy. But
so Ensime spread though until you have to shut down.
Yeah, I mean it's not lighter, it's not any worse, I don't think. It's just not particularly, if you're thinking, hey, it's going to be this svelte a super lightweight, tiny memory footprint thing. No, it's Scala. It's still Scala at the end of the day. So,
Yeah,
all right.
The Scala IDE, I usually get about 2 or 3 days before I
Right. Yeah, I usually just I restart it every morning just out of good form, and I will show you the reset. I'll show you the 2 reset incarnations before the end of this, because those really are your first lines of defense when things go wrong. If you decide you're going to start using it, you'll get very used to doing the reset cycles. They're not hard. You'll just end up doing them. Okay, Sublime is the editor I'm going to demonstrate it in, although most of these things, as you saw, work in all of the editors. Choose the editor of your choice. The way you install it, in Ensime at least, in Sublime at least, is Sublime has a package manager, which if you look it up, it shows you how to install it. Basically, you get Sublime out of the box. It doesn't have the package manager. If you Google for it, there's a site that comes up and it shows you a chunk of Python code that you copy. It's a bit weird, this. It's like you should just ship with it, because everybody does this. It's the first thing that they do. But you copy this, put it into the console, and hit return, and suddenly the package manager springs into existence, and that's what installs everything else in the system. So you can install it through there. Just search for Sublime. I'll show you this. I'm going to sit down for this bit now, because I've got my keyboard and my mouse here. In Sublime, the magic key combination is Control-Shift-P or Command-Shift-P if you're a Windows user. That brings up the anything command console. So if we say install package, and I don't know if it will show it to me or not, because I've got it installed already, but as a Ensime. Yeah, it's not showing it to me because it's installed already. If I did remove packages, it probably still wouldn't show it to me because I haven't installed it through the package manager. I've got it checked out into the thing. But if you type Ensime, you'll see it there. They'll download it. That's about half the story. The other thing you need to do is, that's probably too small. Let's look at it over here. Is you'll need to plug in for SBT if you're using SBT. I'm going to assume SBT for now. I don't know how you use it with Maven, so don't ask. Plugins, Ensime.sbt. So you just need to add, you can see I'm flipping back and forth between the versions right now while I get some of this stuff stabilized. But the latest one is the SBT Ensime 0.6.0. That's the plugin that you need that lets SBT create the project file for you. Okay, so that's that. Okay, install SBT. Oh, install Ensime and install SBT. There's also a plugin called Sublime SBT. Whoops, Control-P. And I think again, it probably won't show me that one because it's installed. But you'll say install package and then SBT. Yeah, it's not there. And this one, in the Emacs version, if we go back to that list of supported text editors, something I'm aiming for, but isn't there yet, is full SBT integration from within Ensime. And the only editor that has this right now is Emacs. Emacs is a long way ahead of the rest of us because they had a head start. And because Sam doesn't sleep, I think that's the truth. So eventually it would be nice to have the full SBT integration in there. For now, what I always end up doing is starting Ensime, and my next command is to start SBT server running as well, and they work very well together. They're very happy coexisting. So you start up Ensime. In fact, sometimes Ensime will show you some errors until the first time you actually compile everything with SBT, and then they all clear up and go away again. So I'll take you through a session of that in a moment. Was there anything else in this list? Yeah, so as of yet, SBT is a necessary companion. The alternative is to install them in the packages directory directly from GitHub, and I recommend this if you're going to customize them or do any kind of work on it yourself. A tip that I didn't know about is you really want to put them in the .config Sublime text packages, not link them there. Sublime will pick up file changes and reload them immediately, but it won't do it for a soft link. It only does it for the file actually being there. So what you do is check it out into there and then link it back to another development directory that's a bit easier to get to than remembering that. And then everything's happy, so you can then edit it in your nice soft link, and the changes still show up immediately. So yeah, and it says it there. If you do this, install directly into there and soft link them. So this is where they are in my machine. So if you go to .config, Sublime Text 3 packages, and then under there you'll see I've got Ensime and Sublime SPT. It mixes directly in with the other ones that are downloaded off of there. I just have to know that those particular ones are gitted, whereas the other ones are downloaded off of the interwebs through the package manager. All right, so let's go through one of these. I've got a project here. If I show it, it's very simple, very small project. It's a straight up SPT. I'm not pulling the wool over your eyes. I'd love to show you the bigger ones, but I think in these cases there's too many secrets in there that I can't show you the big stuff that I work on. But it does work on there. It really does work on the big stuff. This is just a little demo that I've got. So let's remove. Actually, I'll show you a reset while we're here. You'll do this from time to time. This is the Ensime project reset. rm-rf .ensime star. Okay, gone. And then spt ensime config. Okay, and take a few seconds. This is assuming that your dependencies are working and that your SPT is.
That's recreating the project files.
That's recreating the project files. I also just blew away my cache and my log, which means that, well, blowing away the log is good. On I've got a smaller laptop, it's a portable one, and the log gets, I'm not kidding about the log, it gets so big on there. I have a hacked version of Sublime, of the Sublime plugin that sends the logs to dev null because they were getting too big and I just needed to turn them off on that machine. On here, I leave them on because occasionally things go wrong and I need to know what it was. But on the other machine, they were just chewing up so much space all the time. So turn them off on there. So there we go. It's now ready. So now we come across to here. Let's go all the way in from, save this, quit out of it. And you'll come into Sublime. And Sublime will start up. I've got it open here, but basically you can go to File, Open Folder, and you'll open the folder with the project in it. Then you'll get pretty used to doing this. I pretty much never start Ensime up without the console actually running, console log running, because it's one of the first places that things can go wrong. So you want to see if things aren't happy. So by hitting basically Control and tilde, it brings up the console. This is the sort of shell that backs Sublime. And you'll see it does actually say created Ensime environment for Ensime debug, which is what we're in. And then once you've done that, you hit Control-Shift-P because that does everything. And say Ensime startup. And the first time you do this, it takes a long time because we just blew away with that rm-rf. We blew away all the stuff it's got cached and all the indexes and everything like that. If you brought a project into IDEA, you know how long it takes for the little index. But that's what's going on here, but with less graphical clues as to what's going on. So it'll sit here for a while saying save class. It's actually not saving the class path. That's already happened. It's now indexing. There's probably an opportunity to put some more logging in there. But the second time you run it, you'll notice it's a lot faster to get going because it doesn't have to do all that. So ranking, there we go. No files were indexed out of the one queued. I think that's just, there's some messages that come up. These are fine. When you see stack traces, that means something's gone wrong. So this is good. This is all going swimmingly so far. And then eventually it will say something like, you can actually keep an eye at the bottom here. It'll say successfully connected to the Ensime server. And then it will say something along the lines of, has a little slogan that comes up in a minute. Come on. Usually says something along the lines of, can build from dream to list of reality. Something like that, something funny. And there we go. I've got it. Can build from this dream reality, less reality. This could be the start of a beautiful program. And it's ready. So the next thing you do, of course, as I mentioned, is, let's get out of this, use this one, is start SBT, because you just can't do a lot in the actual build, in terms of actually building. Ensime is about the tooling, SBT is about the building right now. So to actually build it, we're going to start the SBT console up. That'll come up down here. And a few seconds. Come on, get quicker. Go, go, go. Normally not as long as this. Oh, there's something running, you know, things may have gone badly here. I've just noticed my CPU's pegged. Right, let's do a reset. This is not typical, I promise. This is always going to quit. Okay, this is a Python. Oh, there it goes. It's maybe I'll give it a second, see if it recovers. Let's give it a second here. Okay. What is using all the CPU? Let's have a look. These are the reasons it's up. You need to keep an eye out. Oh yeah, now Java. There's some. Oh no, it just seemed to get better. So okay, let's go with it. Let's see how we do. So anyway, SBT is running now. Lovely thing about Sublime, if you've done any Sublime projects, it's totally customizable. Everything is customizable. It's really easy to set it up exactly how you like it. It's a lot like Emacs without this, which is perfect. It's just like it. So I've got like lots of keyboard shortcuts. Control-Alt-M does a make for me, so that's a test compile, shoves it straight into the SBT. And this is one of the great advantages of this, right? I'm building with SBT. I'm building with the tool that you build with. There's no difference between my development environment and reality. And it's really, really quite nice. So there we go, it's built. Let's see some of the things it can do. What have I got to? All right, so let's do it. Let's have a look at some stuff. Here's a program I prepared earlier. What can I do in Ensime? Well, this is quite nice. You see, we've got some features that I don't think you've even got. I don't know, maybe Idea does do this. So let's see what, I don't know. Let's take a look. Oh, I know. We'll use the refactoring demo. Let's have a look at zip here. Okay, zip. I can alt-click, and I get a nice little pop-up with all the type information. Oh, shit. Don't do that. And it's hot linked. These links actually go to the code. So exciting. So I can go and see, well, let's have a look at that can build from that everybody else. Oh, there it is. Can build from. That's not so scary. What's everybody complaining about? So yeah, you can actually navigate very easily in there.
That's from sources.
Sorry?
That's from sources.
So one of the things that happens when you do the gen ensime, oh, not sorry, it's not gen ensime anymore, ensime config, that just changed, is it goes and downloads all the Java docs, all the Scala docs and all the sources. So the first time you run that, you're going to pay a certain amount of pain as the whole internet downloads and all the sources and things. But yeah, they're all in the Ivy cache at this point, or the Corsair cache. That's the new thing is. You guys heard of Corsair? Do you know about that? Okay. I've only just started using it because Scala Debugger uses it. And it is a lot faster, so yeah, I like it so far. I didn't know about it until Scala Debugger, and then all of a sudden I'm like, "Ooh, what happened?" So Ivy is just not very fast. Basically, it comes down to there's a lot of things Ivy doesn't do very fast, and there was for a long time people were trying to make SBT work with Ivy better and try and make it faster. And then I think eventually somebody just gave up and said, screw it, I'm going to rewrite the dependency manager bit. And they came up with Corsair, which is written in Scala, and it's much, much faster for resolving dependencies in particular. So, are you using it? Oh, okay.
I would like to.
I
was hoping you'd say it would work.
It does work. There's a few things that, so I think it's just getting used to it, right? Ivy puts everything in one big directory with everything under there. Corsair organizes things under different repos, so there's a directory for each repo. And you need to know that when you go looking for dependencies, because some of the dependencies are not only in there multiple times, but they're in there under different repos. And you have to find, if you want to delete one of them, you have to find them all and delete them all, and that sort of thing. So hit that a couple of times while working on the Scala debugger. So anyway, that's the alt. That's the alt stuff. You can dive into it. It's not very clever because it doesn't know these are generics, and it's linked them up anyway. And you can click. It doesn't take you anywhere useful, but you can click on. Oh, actually, that did. That took me to something. What did it take me to? Oh, it took me to it. Okay, maybe I can fix that then. Maybe it gives up on the generics and just takes you to the parent of the generic or something like that. It's hard to remember what I have and haven't done in here right now, but anyway, so that's that. No, we don't want to change it. Close without saving. Let's see what else we can do. We can control click, and we go to the definition directly. That was basically what I just did with the other one, but I just jumped straight in there. This is code navigation. Shouldn't be too surprising. Some of the other things, though, I didn't know about this one until quite recently. Let's go back. Where is the zip? Where did my zip go? There. You can actually, here's the Ensime pop-up menu. I've got shortcuts for most of these, but you can actually do browse the Scala docker point as well. I have to go over to my browser, but sure enough, there's the Scala doc for zip eventually. Come on. There it goes. Takes you to the Scala doc for zip. I think that's cool. That's not bad, right? Just to be able to jump into that. So that's a nice feature. What else have we got? I didn't realize it's broken for Java right now. Let me show you what it does for Java. I've got to figure out exactly what's wrong. Something changed in the URL for Java, so it's probably my end. It's probably SBT. So if I go to something like string, what have I got? Oh yeah, let's do close. So if I go and do Scala doc, browse Scala doc at point, but it comes up with a funky, messed up URL right now. So it's sort of trying to go there, but it's come up with, well, it's the localhost, but now it's really the Oracle.
Yeah, Dan, I think that in the plugin is what happens sometimes the server will not. So for Scala docs, we'll send you back a relative URL to the local web service itself. In Java docs, that just sends you to the Oracle docs for us, and look there. The code was in plugins depending on the server. And then this action form like that.
Okay.
So it's pretty easy to get actually. I just drop the.
I think, yeah, I should be able to just drop the link on that stuff. Right, yeah. So I'll fix that in some way. So you're the Vim guy then. Hi. That's the Vim Ensime and primary Ensime contributor for Vim.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah. So yep. I'm not really the primary. I think I share that honor with Rory. He does at least as much on Sublime as I do. So, okay. So that's that. What else have we got? What else you got? Okay. Auto import. I didn't realize how essential auto import was until I didn't have it for a while. Good Lord, I just about went insane. So yeah, let's take out at the top here, refactoring demo. Let's get rid of these two. Oh yes, of course we've got error highlighting as well. Save. Errors in the code. I can go down here, and I haven't really shown this yet, but if you click on it, you'll actually see down the bottom here. It tells you in the status bar what's wrong. I'll show you the other view that's useful for this as well, which is there is an Ensime notes you can run, and nicely lay it out so we can see both at the same time. 2 rows. Drag that down here. This is what's wrong in the code right now. So this is your immediate hints of things that are broken. I've got file or type print writer defined. So what I can do now is hit Control-I, and there it is. Our list of possible imports. Java.io file is there. and put it in at the top for me. Brilliant. Now I've just got to do the print writer. If I save it now, print writer's still broken. Do it again, and print writer, bring it in. Okay, and it's put them on 2 lines. So this was the next thing that drove me nuts, is it just starts lining them all up. So organize imports. Oh, look at that. Refactoring Nirvana. And it will get rid of the imports that you don't use when you do that as well. And it actually does, this is something it does better than IntelliJ. And IntelliJ will tell you things are not being used, particularly with implicits, and they are being used. They'll be grayed out, you'll delete them, and suddenly your code won't compile anymore. You don't get that here. You just don't get that in Ensime. So that's a little bonus. Right. What else have we got? Auto import organization, the notes view, code completion. It wouldn't be much of an IDE without that. So if we go down and say, where's the string? Let's just create one. Val s equals hello. Oh, actually make it a string. And s dot, and we can hit control space, and nothing happens. Let's try starting to type. Oh, I think things have gone very badly. It's all gone pear-shaped. I'll tell you, man, it's when you do demos. Right, time for a reset. Oh, it's all going so well. What is? Let me just try and pull this out. And we can also have a look at the log and see what it's saying over here. It might give us a clue. So that finished. Let's bring the log up. This is good. This is what life is like with Ensime. S dot reverse. Oh, we're back. Reverse. Look at that. It actually sees it on there. I can say to uppercase and so on. And you've got code completion. If it's a bit more, well, let's see what have we got here that would be something. Oh, here we go. Yeah, something like val p2 equals person. Okay, look at this. We get the person. We get the positions. We can actually type Mark and tab to the next one. Hello. 22. That's what you are, right? Yeah. There you go. So yeah, that's kind of cool. It's a bit clunky when you get lots of implicits right now because it brings up all the implicits as well. My habit for that is I'm trying to fix. I need to get that fixed. But right now, what you do is just keep tabbing until you get to the implicit. It selects the whole implicit. Hit delete. Good to go. Actually, if you hit delete one more time, it gets rid of the parens around it as well, both of them, because it deletes the parens in pairs. That's Sublime. So these tricks work. All right, what else have we got? Code completion, control click, I've shown you that. Okay, let's do some refactoring. Exciting to have real refactoring. So here's a refactoring demo I made earlier. Shouldn't have strings in your code. Not inline, so let's do an extract local. Okay, down the bottom, it might not be obvious to begin with. Sublime likes to have its dialog down at the bottom of the screen, so it's waiting for input right now. You just need to know that's how Sublime does it. So we'll call this file prefix, and that file prefix got added, and we've got file prefix in there. And then let's do the extension as well while we're at it. So Ensime extract local and extension. Okay, then somebody comes along and says, "Oh, that's the old way. You need to not do that anymore." So now you can just say inline local, and it switches back again. It's all right. You don't have to clap. Don't feel pressure. This is a big deal for us. Actual refactorings. Okay, next one. Probably don't want to have all of this. Actually, let's put these back in here because it'll be more exciting if I do. I'll just undo. So
Yay!
Thank you. Undo works.
So how does it decide to put a blank line in between them and put it up with the other valves, right? Like, is there a straightforward rule for where to put it?
You know, that part happens on Ensime server. I don't know. It does a pretty good job, although occasionally this is one of the operations that can eat some of your code. Undo will always get you back. But yeah, I haven't looked at that part. It just works. So there's enough stuff that's broken in there that I concentrate on that, and I leave the working stuff alone. So I'm gonna. This is obviously, you know, this code shouldn't be in here. So let's extract a method. Development extract method, and we'll call this write the file. And yeah, look at that. So we've got it figured everything out. We've got write the file. It passed in the file prefix and the extension. They're in there. It does have a bit of a bad habit of fully qualifying everything. I usually have to go through and clean up the type signature afterwards. It doesn't know, it's not smart enough at this point to know that file has been imported. So it tends to stick a lot of fully qualified things on there. But yeah, it worked and should still compile. Let's check it. Quick Control-Alt-M and everything should be good, I think. Yeah, there we go. All right. That's all, very nearly all the refactoring. Just leave you in a bit of a bad state. You can rename things very easily. So let's just say here, simple rename of this, rename, and we'll call it it's basically the things in Ensime. And once that's ready, so some things we don't have, and I haven't mentioned this yet, there's no find usages. That's probably one of the biggest ones right now. The Graphpocalypse will make that happen. Reliable rename will happen after the Graphpocalypse, and a lot of other refactorings that we can't do right now will actually become, you know, a reality after that's ready. But we're all volunteers. There's no timeline on when it's going to be done. It's just being worked on. So yeah.
So the architecture of this thing, if I'm getting this correctly, is that there's an Ensime server that's in Scala and there's basically client code in the editor in whatever is the native language of the editor that's talking.
That's exactly right. And I'm going to actually, at the end, there's going to be a very slight recruiting pitch for Ensime, and I'll talk a little bit about next steps and what we want to do with that as well. So, yeah, so that's, it is a client server thing. The same Ensime server runs for all of the editors. The clients are, of course, different for each editor. I mean, it's not huge, but it's also not tiny. I've got the Ensime code up here somewhere. Ensime, Sublime, yeah. So this is the primary thing that does it. It's a reasonably big Python file, and it probably could stand to be broken up a bit too. But it's, you know, this is effectively the rest. That sort of thing. And what I have to say is, you change something, you save it, it's immediately reloaded into your existing session. You see the results straight away, and you see the breakages straight away if you got it wrong as well. Two things I love that about Python. I hate the fact that in Python you can type something and it's just completely incorrect code and it just won't compile anymore, and you don't see that, or it won't run anymore. You don't see that until it starts trying to run in the other session. So, but it's actually fun. I love working in Python, and I love working in Scala. So this brings together two of my favorites. It's not the one I want. I want the refactoring one. Domain model. There we go. Refactoring demo. Okay, I think we're almost through the features. We've done rename. Oh, let's do reformat. The last one. For now, this isn't in the main one yet, but it's in mine, and see. Well, it changed a couple of things. You've got to see there. It's spaced out. If I do an undo, it's spaced out the line. Apparently, oops, that's fine. I'll just do that again. Apparently, I'm pretty good at sticking to the formatting that I requested. So reformat this file. Yeah, changed a few things, spread a few things out. Not much change there. That's nice. And I think, how am I doing for time? I've probably got time to show you a very quick debugging session and what works and what doesn't. So, oh, don't do that. So let's do that over here. So we've done reformat, debugging. This certainly will blow your hand off at some point. It's very, very young. Things that it's just been, actually what I'll say, it's just like the whole back end has just been rewritten to use the Scala debugger, which is what Chip Sinkbile's working on. As a result of that, there are quite a few things that aren't working properly yet, but the overall effect has been to make the thing work much more reliably than it has before. So what's working works really reliably, but some of it's not working. You can set and hit breakpoints just fine. You can inspect variables. It never could do like a computed watch. That's something I want to add, to just be able to type an expression in and have that be added to the watch list. But the single step and the step into don't work. So right now, if you want to use it, you got to go find the place that you want to stop at and stick a breakpoint there, and then it's fine. So you quite often stick a breakpoint down every single line in a routine, because that's your single step. That's the way you do it at the moment, and not sure what it is with single step at the moment, but we'll figure it out. So let's do one quickly. What you do to do this? Let's go to my Hello Scala. We'll stick down a breakpoint. F9 is that? Oh, F9. There we go. We've got a breakpoint in the code. Now what we have to do is go over to SBT and say debugging. And what this does is it turns on the debugging settings for the JVM. You have to have you either have to fork the test or the run internally, because otherwise these settings don't get used. It's using the SBT, the settings that we use when SBT starts up. So you've either got to do that, or you've got to run SBT with debugging enabled. Either of those will work. So you do that. Now let's do a run, and we'll see. First of all, it says compiling, and then it says waiting for a socket connection, because it's waiting for the debugger. Hit F5, which starts the debugger, and no, F5. And there we go. It's doing it, and it hit the breakpoint, and we can go in and we can see the variables, and you can expand things, double click on them. It's not obvious because there's no little drop down, but most of these things you can double click on them and it shows you the contents. And if it's not one that has that, it just won't show you it. You can double click on it and it won't do anything. But so that's good. You can jump around the stack. Not that there's much to see in this one. It's pretty narrow, but this is actually moving around the stack, and it would move between the source files. And if I change the stack here, we should see the variables change in the watches. There's none there, and so on. There you go. There's the args that came in. So debugging works, and you can just quit at the end of it. Disable or stop debugging. And you can also clear all the breakpoints from the menu here. Okay, so that's pretty much the features that are in there right now. It's not a bad haul. The big one's a hit, right? You really need code completion. You need some type. You need the type information. I think that's great to be able to, just alt click on things, which is suddenly not working again. There we go. There's the apply method for person. It tells you what it takes and what it gives you back. It gets all the types. I think I showed you that earlier when you do things like zip.
Is it easy to tinker with the type colors?
Oh, the coloring is totally up to you. I have a cut. There are many plugins, so I was going to hit that a bit. I don't want to spend too long on this because I know I'm kind of running long. But I think one of the real value adds in this is Ensime that I've shown you. There are tons of plugins. Let me show you some of the plugins that I've got and just talk through them super quick. So if I go package manager, package control, remove package, and this will just list them for me. So the ones that I've got are Align tab, which is the ultimate. If you're anal about aligning all of your columns and equal signs and case statements and everything like that, this is the ultimate one of those. You can put a regex into this sucker and it will align on that. You can choose whatever you want to do. It's got all the basic ones in there, but it's you can add your own ones. Of course, I added Rocket. Rocket is not one of the ones that comes in their own fold, but it's usually what you want to align on, right? And the case statement is a bunch of the rockets. So yeah, that was color scheme and color sublime. This one lets you, actually I can show you this one really quick. This one lets you just go through, select colors. Oh, it's a color sublime themes. Actually, no, I don't want to remove it. That would be bad. I want to show you color. Downloading the latest ones off Color Sublime. And then once that's done, you can just go through and in real time it shows you each one on your code. And when you find one you like, you can just hit it. And I'm going to go back to my chosen one there. What else we got? I'll look put too long on this, but package. Package. Dot blocker is that's it doesn't have very good. Ensime doesn't really have anything for writing Scala doc. Dot blocker does a surprisingly good job of it. It's just a plugin, but as soon as you type /*, it immediately goes into Scala doc mode. It puts your parameters in there. You know, gives you a little template to write to, all of that sort of thing. And it knows when you hit return to put the next star in, all that kind of thing. So it just makes that much more pleasant. Ensime, of course, I've got Ensime in there. Focus file on sidebar means that when I'm editing a file in here, it gets focused over there, so that they're in sync. Git, I've got Git and something called Git Gutter. Git gives you Git integration, fairly obviously. Git Gutter, although this isn't a Git one, shows you little markers down the side to see which lines you've changed, added, deleted, that sort of thing. GitHub flavored Markdown preview, because I write a lot of Markdown. GitHub tools, that's just stuff that integrates with GitHub. I can't even remember what those are now. I think it's to set things like the branch that you're comparing against and stuff like that. Highlight, this one I use because I do training. When you've got some code in here, you can export it directly as HTML with all of the colors and everything so that you can put it in your presentations, and it's quick to come up with presentations. Load file to REPL actually sends, there's a REPL running Scala and you can send what's in there directly to that for demos and stuff like that. Is there anything else I need to, plain notes and plain tasks, they're the ones I was using for the list of reminders of what to do. Scala worksheets and sidebar enhancements. That one's an absolute must. You get this by default in Sublime, the kind of side view, but what you don't get is all of these kind of things. So you don't get all the stuff to create new files, move them around, find and replace, duplicate the file, all of those kind of things. You don't really have anything as fancy as I'm going to create a new class in Sublime. What you do instead is create a file somewhere with that name. This just makes it a lot more pleasant to do that. So you just say, create new file or whatever in there, new file, and tell it it's a particular Scala name. Snippets as well, because I work at SIBO. Let me show you this quick. If I go in here and say new file, and I'll call it demo.scala. Snippets are super easy to use, and they're just built in. There's nothing easier. But for example, we are COM-SIBO continuum is what we're working on. So PCCC, it's cheesy, but it really saves a lot of time. I've got these, and I've got the C imports, C import, and that's the standard continuum import. So those go at the top of a lot of files. So you get the idea. So yeah, that's sort of it, I think. Let's see if there's anything else to talk about. Oh yeah, remember that you've got real SBT in there. One of my favorite things to do, particularly when I've been doing this a lot today, writing test first and test-driven development, stick it in continuous test mode, test only, the one I'm on, do the little tilde. It's whirring away there. Every time I save the file, tries to compile, tries to run the test. Didn't show you this, but if a test fails, Sublime highlights the line that failed as well. So it's pretty smart at that. And when it compiles, I also didn't show you, if there's a compiler, I can show you that one quick. So let's get rid of this for a second. If I change something, deliberately break it over here, and we'll just put you know, that at the end. Okay, you can see immediately that that's broken. If I actually hit compile, oh, not compile all, because I've got that in there. You can see this here, but if I hit Control-Alt-L, this is the Sublime, sorry, the SBT integration. That's all of the, that pop-up will have all of the compilers in all the different files, and you can just jump straight to it, and it takes you to the next compiler that you need to fix. So not bad. I mean, this is an editor, remember, it's not an IDE. So this is all fairly nice and streamlined to work on. Okay, so missing features, no find usages. I mentioned that. The class path search, there isn't really class path search in Sublime right now. In Sublime. Ensime has it. I just haven't, I didn't kind of realize it was there actually. It's another one of those features that I guess it has to be because you can control click through to things. But what you do instead a lot of the time right now is like Control-Shift-P is all the commands. Control-P is this magic find everything that you know about, all the tokens that you know about, everything in the world. So I would normally say something like, okay, I want to go to refactoring demo, and sure enough, it brings it straight up as I start typing it there. So I think one of the reasons I don't have class path search is that's good enough. I rarely need more than that gives me. And actually, find usages, did I say find usages? Class path search. Don't have class path search because that. Find usages, I can do a lot of what I need to just with a find and replace. And I'm looking for use of reverse in there. Dot reverse. I could even say dot reverse to make sure. And pretty quick to find the usage that I want. So while these features should be added and will be added, there are alternatives that work pretty well already. All right. Okay, SBT is there. Control-P is your friend. Yeah, that'll do for now. Many plugins, demo plugins. Okay, I promised you a full Ensime reset and a full project reset. Full Ensime reset looks like this. Okay, things are going horribly wrong. It will happen. Things will stop working. Usually the first indication that you get that something's wrong is the code completion stops code completing. It just doesn't come back with anything. If that happens, quit, first of all. Second, go to your command line, ps aux w grep for Java. Okay. For this reason, I don't run a lot of other Java stuff because I want to be able to type kill all Java. Okay, that's a lot of the time the Ensime server is running away. It's lost its tiny mind. It's doing something, God knows where it is, answering some question, a fundamental question about the universe, and it's not responding. Kill all Java will take it down. Okay, once you've done that, go back into SBT, into Sublime, and just start it up like a fresh session. So that's stage one of your reset. Okay, stage two of the reset is pretty much that. So go find your SBTs or your Ensimes and kill them all. Kill all Java. rm-rf ensime star SBT Ensime config, and start it up again as normal. If that doesn't fix things, then have a look through the getting help first of all. Make sure you get the right Gitter channel and jump on to see if anybody can help you figure out what's going on. But yeah, that I also forgot to mention. It's always worth trying a full SBT build as well, even a clean build. If things aren't working, SBT clean, SBT build. It's basically, have you tried turning it off and on again? That's the fix. Okay, right. So those are the resets. You get very used to doing those. I do it without even thinking about it anymore. But honestly, I say that during the course of a day, when I'm actually working on the stuff for real, not demoing it, it doesn't happen much. Usually I'll reset it because things are slowing down because the log file's getting big or something like that. And it actually works pretty well. All right. Anything else? Full project reset. Remember to do both. If you change dependencies, just go through the whole ritual. Do the whole thing. Don't try and. It is not like IntelliJ going to pick up your new dependencies and just magically start working with them. Life definitely isn't that smooth with it. So just go through the reset. Yeah, remember reading the getting help section. Approach it with the right mindset. It does work. I use it all the time. I can tell you right now, it works, and it works pretty well. It certainly has its problems, and if they're too frustrating, it's not ready for you yet. It will probably get there at some point, but you have to expect a certain level of pain still as things are progressing. Try and narrow down the problem as much as you can. The Gitter channels are really good. Just look for Ensime on Gitter. There's various ones. There's the Ensime server, is where servers discussion happens, and anything that affects all of the editors will likely happen on there. But there's also discussion channels for each of the editors that has good support. So there's a Vim, there's a Sublime, there's a Atom, an Emacs, of course, and so on. So if you think it's just your editor, there's a different group of people that will see that and try and help you on one than the other. And then if it's something to do with debugging, Scala Debugger is probably the right place for that right now, because the debugging is very new and very young. And I said it wouldn't eat your code. It hasn't eaten my code for a really long time. But still, actually a good long time, like months and months and months, I haven't had any problem with. And even before that, Control-Z always works. Pretty much everything,
So did they undo implemented the editor's undo, or does Ensime take care of undo?
It's the Ensime. Sorry, it's the editor undo that's doing it. Yeah, Ensime just relies on the editor for that. I didn't really talk about this, but the refactorings, the way they're done, is very interesting. You send the request through of what you want to do to the server, and it sends back a patch file to you. And you then apply the patch file locally, and that happens as a single operation, which can be undone as well. So yeah, those are how that stuff works. So if you want to help us out, this is the recruiting drive. We have many opportunities. The one thing I need right now is somebody who's more current with Python than I am. I actually stopped using Python about 10 years ago. Must have been, actually maybe not quite 10, but around about the time that I discovered Scala, I just went nuts over Scala and really didn't write that much in Python anymore. Since then, a lot's changed. Python 3 came out and lots of things like that. I picked up some of it, but also I never did really any serious enterprise level programming in Python. I've never written like a test suite in Python. So I can really use some help if anybody knows what the testing frameworks are in Python to use. That would be really good to add. JSON. Okay, this is the big one. You were who was it was asking about? Was it you about the server? Or somebody was asking about the server. Client server. Right. Yeah. Client server right now. Remember, this was an Emacs, originally an Emacs plugin. Communication between the client and the server uses, well, at least for Sublime, uses a protocol called Swank, which is based on S expressions, which are the Scala lists. Oh, sorry, the list lists, ELIST lists. And that's what gets sent back and forth right now. It's old, and Sam is trying to retire the Swank protocol altogether. There's a new one out there, which uses WebSockets, I think, the new one. It's super sexy, and JSON. And we need to switch. Like, the old one is actually not going to be supported after 1.0 anymore, and we're about to start working on Ensime Server 2.0. It seems to me that it's either going to be a trivially easy job to rewrite the RPC bit in Python and just use the new protocol and convert to JSON instead of the S expressions. That'll probably be easier because we'll cut out a lot of custom code that's doing the S expressions. But I don't know which JSON library to use. And I suspect it's actually not going to be as easy as that. And I'd really like, I don't have a lot of time for this. If anybody's willing to jump in and help us do the jerky switchover, that would be very welcome. And Vim would benefit from this as well, right? Because you guys are Python. So.
And what we've also got on is we're hoping to get to like the 1.0 feature set soon-ish, but it doesn't constant.
Right. And then there's the whole scary, let's switch everything to JSON and hope it all stuff.
So we're actually already on JSON.
Oh, you are? So you can see your stuff.
That and, yeah.
Oh, that makes me very happy. Do you have unit tests as well?
It's like it doesn't.
Yeah, but you've got them working. I can steal all your stuff. That's awesome. Okay, so that's good. But we do definitely need some, if you're willing to get involved, you will find, as long as you're willing to put up with a bit of pain and do the work, you'll find a very pleasant and friendly community of people. Sam occasionally goes off on some tirade about licensing or other, but just ignore it. I do. I use a proprietary editor. I like to mention that to him so often, and he's talking about all that stuff. And that's pretty much it. I would say the other thing is, if you don't like it now, and you might not, because it is a bit rough and ready, don't write it off altogether, because it is improving at a fairly rapid pace. And so you might come back in a few months and it's actually like super smooth and cool. So, and I think that's it. I have no idea how I do it.
Yes. So I think one thing I've seen Sam complain about is that the presentation compiler doesn't handle macros. Is that true?
Yes, that
is.
is.
There a plan to fix that?
Well,
Does it just completely blow up, or it doesn't understand the return type?
no, actually, I think probably what he's talking about there is unlikely to be, I think, what they call the black box versus the white box macros.
Yeah, I mean, the presentation editor certainly deals with some macros, because I certainly use them in Scala IDE a lot.
Right.
I think the problem that it has, it doesn't do try check on macro extension.
Yes. So that's black box macros, right?
Right. And so he has that imaginary friend compiler plugin. It's like try and sort of work around that, but I don't think it's really better.
So just to give you an idea of that, there's the macros will split into 11, I think that's happened, or was it 210, into white box and black box. The difference is a black box macro, when it runs, can actually narrow the return type further than what's in the code. So let's say you have fruit and you call the macro and it knows it's returning a banana, it can actually change the type of that return. And that makes code that accesses things only on banana work below it in different code. Without the macro support, it can't do that. So you're looking at code that says, oh, it's fruit here, and you're trying to call peel and make a banana split, and it's not available on fruit. So effectively, it's very simple. That's very simplified version, but I think that's probably what he's talking about. If you use the white box macros, you won't have a problem, because one of the rules about macros is it has to type check in order to use macros. So you shouldn't see like errors coming up like that. I think it's just a black box that so Sam's actually trying to get around that with a compiler plugin, right? You can do anything with a compiler plugin. And it's a good thing they're not documented, because otherwise everyone gets it right. And then it would be just complete chaos. Right, so yeah, any other questions? Yeah.
I can have the Ensime server running on a remote machine, and my browser will talk to it over a network. Is that something?
I believe so. It's quite chatty, so I'm not sure how well it would perform. But yeah, you should be able to do that. I think depending on how, you need a quick network, I think, because there's a lot of stuff flying back and forth. But yeah, it should be able to work. haven't tried that. Originally, the idea was, like I said, this sort of got kicked off because I thought, gosh, it would be nice to have some kind of IDE support in Activator, and this looked like it was a possible way to do it. In hindsight, I think probably it wouldn't work so well because it is pretty heavy. It has quite a lot. It brings along quite a lot of resource requirements with it, but it certainly works for development on your machine. So.
How different are the different editors? If you learn how to use it with one, are you going to be able to switch to another?
That's a good question. I know how to use it. I must say, I tend to, at the moment, jump into Ensime every so often because I want to see what they've got that we haven't yet, and like try and keep up with them and that sort of thing. So I know it's pretty similar in Atom in a lot of things. I mean, the key bindings are working make, but it looks pretty similar there. I haven't tried it in Vim, so you should do Vim one of these sometime, or at least a Lightning Vim sometime. That'd be great.
I mean, the editors themselves can be staggeringly different. I mean, trying to go back and forth between Vim and Max occasionally makes my head hurt.
Right. Yeah, Atom and Sublime feel pretty similar. They have a very similar, and I think by design,
Yeah.
yeah,
I want to tracks.
the Sublime users. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, it is.
I migrated almost by their team from Sudan to
Okay. Well, now you've seen this, you can go back to Sublime. I think the answer's clear.
all the plugins you said. I think that package is integrated.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Who's this Sam? You refer to? He's the
Sam,
developer.
at Fomil, Sam Halliday, he's really the driving force behind the revamp. Rory is definitely like second lieutenant or whatever, but Sam was really the one who just seemingly out of nowhere just got the beans from it and started kicking off.
Where's he located?
He's in the UK, works in the UK. So does Rory. We have team meetings whenever. Oh, that was the last Scala conference I went to. Was actually the Scala Exchange, which is the one in London, and that's where we had our last team meeting. Somebody was asking me about the last Scala conference I went to. Yeah, we had a team meeting in the pub with beers. That's the kind of team meeting you want. Yeah. Well, any more, or should we go drinking? All right, that's it. Right, good. Okay. Yes, we're heading to the Royal Sonesta. There's a bar there called the Art Bar, and they have a nice outdoors bit, a patio that overlooks the Charles River, and looks like it'll be jolly nice. So we'll head over that way. Let's get all this torn down.